Welcome back to World Building 101. In this episode, we are going to be talking about two very important factors when building your world, and that is scale and limitations. Both of these are very important because if you do not have the right scale, you will build too little or too much. If you do not implement the right limitations on yourself, you can easily fall prone to world builder's disease, where you go and begin detailing every single blade of grass or every single article of clothing, anything that you can get lost in thought. And at the moment think, "Oh, that's cool," or "that's important," your players and or readers are not going to care. If you've got a particular glove that has a long history, nobody's really going to care unless that glove is somehow important to the story. And so that's where limitations should be applied. And so for me, I'm going to go over what limitations that I can currently think of, and I'll probably land on more as I progress through world building this world. But right now, this is my scale. This whole map. That's it. This is the world that I have. I have some minor knowledge about a previous continent, but this is where my story takes place. So I need a little bit of information about a previous continent where the players will be coming from. So I'll need some more information about it and what's going on there. But that's going to be the driving factor of my story anyway. And we'll get to campaign building later. But right now, this is my scale. And so if my scale is continent based, then what limitations come with that? The first limitation I can see would be I need a way to limit sea travel. Because if this is what I want for the moment, I don't want them to decide, let's go on a ship and leave. But I also don't want it to feel railroaded. And so I'm going to write out here, I need to limit sea travel. And then how do we limit sea travel? Well, that could be story based, which is what I'll be using. The ships that they arrive on, they will need to break down and use for the materials. That will have always been the plan. That way, sea travel is limited for a period of time. And so there are different types of limitations. You can have a permanent limitation where this thing cannot happen, or a temporary limitation where they are limited by some kind of resource. And in this case, it's going to be boats. They aren't going to have boats or ships readily available. They may get canoes to travel up the rivers, but they're not going to have some way to travel on a boat out into the sea. And my second limitation for this, so my first limitation for sea travel is going to be lack of resources. My second limitation is going to be a creature that I'm going to put out in the seas over here that they will need to overcome. So it's going to be a challenge to overcome. Now that's how I'm going to limit sea travel. What else needs to be limited? Land travel is restricted, but it's not limited. It's just going to be they're going to have to explore and build roads and develop themselves before they can get further and further out. That's a story-based expansion of where they can be. Planar travel, since I'm using D&D as my base, planar travel may need to be somewhat limited. Especially if I don't want to completely lose my players. So the first limitation in planar travel is simply level. What could be another limitation be? Well, with my history of the world, I'm thinking maybe there is some kind of barrier that would need to be broken or overcome or surpassed, circumvented, any number of creative solutions that I will leave up to the players to come up with. If they can surpass the barrier, then they can travel planarly, And I may have to do some more world building outside of this. But again, the fact that there is a barrier would lead me to be able to develop those things, but I don't need to. And that's an important part of limiting yourself. You only develop what needs to be seen. And this is considered agile world building, or I call it like my iceberg theory. You see the tip of the iceberg, this barrier. Why does the barrier exist? All of that, every question that poses, doesn't need to be addressed unless the barrier comes up. And if the barrier seems to be coming up, maybe you need to spend some time developing it. If in your story the barrier is coming up, maybe you need to sit down and actually focus on why the barrier is there. So this can lead to more world building, but not yet. And that's important. That's important to know. You don't have to build everything. Just enough to make it seem like you've built everything. The illusion is more important than actually having done it, because you will spend hundreds of hours building out the world beyond this barrier for your story to may not even go there. It may address the barrier. It may go beyond the barrier for a chapter, a plot, whatever you're breaking your story down into. But if it's not going to spend a lot of time on the other side of the barrier, or any time at all, the barrier is there for you as well. You don't have to go beyond it. What else might I want to limit here? Well, cities, for me, is a major limitation. As of right now, I've got 2 cities planned. That's an unusually low number. But why is that? But that's because of the storm that I have planned. That it's not really a storm, it's more of a magical event that just wipes out civilization every so often on a repeated basis. It travels across the world and wipes out civilization. So these cities aren't even cities, they're going to be new, upcoming. And so I don't need to go in depth into the history of these cities because there isn't any. What I will need to go in depth, though, so in this case I'm going to say limited by my plot slash magical event. And that's really it. There's no other limitation to cities. And then the other thing I need to limit myself on, is how far beyond the main city I plot ahead of time for myself, because I'm doing game mastering. So I need to limit how far out I make up my own, continent. And that's because, and this isn't really a way it's limited, but it is kind of, the players / characters may never go there. So right here I have a bunch of little things set up to go. But the further out I go, that's going to become less and less unless they start going in that direction. If they're heading in a direction, I will build more. But they may never come over here to this desert. So I'm going to put a couple things in the desert, have some people mention it in the story, and that's going to be that. It's going to feel like the desert's fleshed out. And unless they decide to go to a desert, I don't have to worry about it. There's a desert, they know it's there, they know stuff's there. That's it. And that will allow me to get my game to the table and actually play and not just spend years playing with myself building a world. Now, I am restricted in time by the fact that I am waiting on a book that was supposed to come out last November. That's not coming out till next November, so I have a whole year. So I will be fleshing out a lot more than I would normally. But under a normal circumstance, I would be either trying to get straight to get some world building, start writing a story, or get some world building and start playing a campaign. And in this case, I may still do that. I may implement those rules later. I mean, go and retcon some stuff and refigure out how things work. Because sitting around and just world building without having any input or any other stuff gets really constricting. And it shouldn't be. You've got a whole world to build, but you're stuck now. The only input is your own. You're not experiencing your world. You're just putting pieces together. You're building a puzzle. And to break out of that, I recommend either starting a campaign up if you're feeling like you're hitting into a repetitive world building situation, or pick a place, make some characters, and have those characters experience that place. That'll lead you to plot, that'll lead you to story, and that'll lead you to a place to go, and then a place to build. And we'll tell you which places not to build. So in the same vein as me limiting how far I make out my continent, I'm going to say that you need to limit your world building to where the story is going. There is no reason to waste my time in this case building out the whole nation that they're leaving, because they're not going back. Not for a really, really long time, if ever. And that's where it's important. You need to cut content from your world without cutting any content. Just don't make it. There's no reason to waste your time. And I know I've repeated that a couple times, but that's the important part, is to remember your limitations. And if I start losing that, I'll just need to come back, look at this list, maybe make different adjustments to it. Maybe I need to limit how deep I'm going into something, or I need to expand it sometimes. Maybe I need to remove a limit because I've decided to change a bit of my story, and so that's where the story is going to go now, and I need to add that in. And these aren't hard points. They're all flexible, but they need to be flexible only based on the story. So thanks for watching and listening, and if you like this content, please like and subscribe. It would really help me out and let me know to keep making these videos. I know there's been some time gaps in between the videos, and that's just been kind of how life happens sometimes. I'm hoping that this semester in school I've gotten a little bit more stable what I'm doing now, and how it's laid out this semester is a lot less. Last semester was a whole lot towards the end of the semester, and so hopefully the videos will be coming out more regularly. I'm hoping to do maybe one every other day or so, skipping weekends usually. But that's where my current plan is, and I've got a list of topics that I'm going to talk about in the next couple of videos. And after that, we'll see kind of where things are and what you guys really want help with. So please, if you want me to talk about a specific topic or revisit topics, let me know down in the comments below.